Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. In the dim light of the warehouse, shadows lurked behind every crate, and echoes of betrayal whispered through the aisles. It was the mid-1980s, a time of uncertainty and ambition, where the promise of a brighter future hung tantalizingly close yet painfully out of reach. I was trapped between my fledgling business, the relentless grind of finishing my master's thesis, and the shadow cast by the state university that had twisted my life into a mockery of what it should have been. The university, a third-tier institution desperately trying to elevate its prestige, had turned its back on the very essence of education. Instead of nurturing knowledge, it sought funding by exploiting its students and faculty. They expelled the English department, shoving us into overcrowded classrooms shared with history and political science majors, all in the name of money. This act of betrayal became the backdrop of my own story, a narrative filled with anger, frustration, and an insatiable desire for revenge. It was my last semester. I stood on the precipice of graduation. My hard work was rewarded with a requirement to take an Introduction to Computers course, an arbitrary decision that came down from the higher-ups, a mere cash grab that postponed my success by an entire semester. The institution's greed cost me more than money. It stripped away my dignity. I was enraged, caught in the claws of a system designed to fail me while propping itself up with false promises. The lab where I had to complete my final exam was a hastily assembled nightmare. An old relic filled with terminals that wheezed under years of neglect. And yet, the new computer science department glistened nearby, housing a VAX server, a gleaming beacon for the privileged few. Watching the confident CS majors strut past the barriers, I felt a bitter sense of injustice. I was an outsider on my own campus, forced to endure demeaning treatment from those who should have been my fellow scholars. As I entered the lab on a fateful Sunday morning, I tried to suppress my rising rage. I signed in, overhearing the raucous laughter and the sounds of bad 80s music blaring through the haze of cigarette smoke. These moments felt suffocating, each laugh ringing like a cruel reminder of my status as a pawn in a game I never wanted to play. Across the hall, I could see the privileged CS majors, their laughter echoing taunts as they monitored their sacred lab. Then came the moment of confrontation. A scrawny little runt snivel lips, as I dubbed him, approached me. "Get out of here," he snarled, the kind of arrogance that only the insecure can muster. It was a ridiculous power play, a feeble attempt to establish dominance. I looked him in the eye, refusing to cower, my heart racing with anger. "I'm just sitting here reading. The guy before you said it was fine," I replied, my voice steady. "Well, I say it's not fine, so move," he shot back, advancing on me with the kind of bravado that masked his cowardice. I stood my ground, the tension thick in the air. There was a moment of silence, as though the universe itself held its breath. Snivel lips faltered, and I resolved to show him that I was not as easily intimidated as he believed. "We're just going to have to agree to disagree about that," I said coldly, returning to my book. Fury radiated off him, and he stormed away, a foot soldier failing his commander. Minutes later he returned, accompanied by a professor with flaring tempers and bad breath. The man wasted no time in reprimanding me, his face flushed with impotent rage. "You can't threaten a lab monitor," he barked, his authority crumbling as I remained calm. "I didn't threaten anyone. I simply explained that I was reading a book," I replied, forcing the words through clenched jaws. The professor twisted my words, amplifying his own insecurities as he practically railed. "You will not disrespect them." Every command marked my freedom, and with a bitter resignation, I agreed to leave. But a seed of rebellion was planted deep within my heart. I had been wronged, belittled, overlooked, all for the greater good of a fraudulent system. I left the lab with nothing but my anger and the knowledge that my film of restraint had begun to crack. In the midst of this hopelessness, I found solace in the chaos of fellow lost souls. One particularly panicked classmate had been unraveling beside me, eyes wide as he sputtered about computers. His fear was palpable, and an idea began to form deep within the caverns of my anger. "Give me your password, I'll help you out," I offered, thinking back to my own frustrations. He agreed, but moments later dropped the class. I still had the password. A chord of rage struck a new note. I envisioned crafting a simple but profound message, a form of justice disguised as a prank. With a flick of my fingers, I transformed my pent-up anger into 2 lines of basic code. The world may have tried to silence me, but I would make them listen. Feel the burn of their betrayal. With calculated precision, I executed the program and quietly left the lab, my heart pounding with the thrill of rebellion. My program would run endlessly, creating a spectacle of absurdity designed to lampoon their superiority. It felt petty, but in that moment, I was no longer the passive victim. I imagined the chaos my simple lines would sow pages upon pages declaring, "The computer department is a disgrace." The vision alone made my heart race. Little did I know that I was conjuring a storm far beyond the walls of that computer lab. I left that building, my final mark upon the institution left too late to correct. The effects of my playful yet defiant act remained beyond my comprehension until years later, when I met a woman at a club. A chance encounter morphed into dreadfully painful revelation. Engaging in casual drink and banter, our conversation turned to the aftermath of my little act of rebellion. I watched her jaw drop as I recounted the tale of my harmless prank, expecting laughter and solidarity. Instead, her face contorted in horror, and a storm brewed behind her eyes. "That was you," she screamed, her voice rising above the pulsing bass of the club. "Do you have any idea what you did?" Confusion racked me. "What I did?" I thought I made a printer spew out a few pages. My voice faltered as she cut through my bravado. "No, you crashed the entire network." Her fury electrified the air between us, twisting like a knife. It took them 2 days to recover. The entire department was plunged into chaos. You think your little message had no impact? It broke trust among students and faculty. Regret slashed through me, but I struggled against it. I simply wanted to defend myself, to strike back at the system that belittled me. Instead, I had left devastation in my wake. "But I didn't mean to hurt anyone," I stammered, defensive and confused. "Well, you hurt a lot." Your childish rage reverberated through the halls for years to come. You thought you were being smart, but all you did was prove how pathetic you are. With those final words, she slapped my face, and the sting ignited something deeper within me. The rush of betrayal morphed into a single dark thought. I was not the fool I had once been. My own actions had branded me as such, but no longer would I remain idle. The cold tendrils of revenge wrapped around my heart, a dark promise to unleash chaos upon those who had wronged me. But with revenge came reflection. I couldn't strip myself of accountability. So I trudged forward, a storm brewing in my soul. They would pay. It was not just a matter of pride, but a declaration to reclaim my worth, to rise from the ashes of their betrayal. And I would do it in a way that they would never see coming. Filled by the perception of my own folly, I embarked on a dark journey, a path paved with vengeance, seeking to dismantle the very system that had sought to hold me down for far too long. I gathered the broken pieces of my heart, hardened them into steel, and turned my attention to the 2 central figures in my betrayal: the contemptuous snivel lips and the contemptibly arrogant professor who had belittled me. Their faces burned in my memory, igniting my resolve as I sought to mirror their cruelty with my own brand of justice. Over the months that followed, I meticulously plotted my revenge, taking notes, observing their weaknesses, and cataloging their routines. The more I gathered, the clearer the picture became. Snivel Lips, whose real name was Michael, still monitored the computer lab, safeguarding the sanctity of the VAX server with the same pinched severity that had characterized our first encounter. The professor, Dr. Palmer, was much the same, having ridden the wave of that year's upheaval to solidify his reputation within the department. And then it hit me. Cold and sharp, I wouldn't just make them suffer in the aftermath of my act. I would ensure they felt every ounce of dread I had felt since that moment in the lab. I had originally only struck at a prideful system, but I would now engrave their mistakes into their very souls. Days turned into weeks as I laid the groundwork. I crafted a fake staff email from the university's administration. My computer programming skills had grown from a mere hobby into a burning desire for retribution. The email contained a fabricated announcement about increased security measures and protocols for the computer lab gone overboard. It sent ripples of paranoia through the department. Everyone in the lab began to second-guess their colleagues, side-glancing with suspicion The trust I had broken now haunting them as much as it had haunted me. I felt a thrill rush through me each time I watched from the shadows, their confidence crumbling like dust in the wind, my distant mirth swelling within. One late evening, I stood at the edge of the shadows, waiting as Dr. Palmer left the lab after a long day. As he slid his keys into the lock, I felt the exhilaration pulse through my veins. He had always deemed me a mere nuisance, devoid of power or worth. But tonight he would witness my true potential. "Dr. Palmer," I called from the darkness, watching his eyes widen at the unexpected voice. He turned slowly, the bravado strained behind his increasingly fearful facade. "Who's there?" He scanned the area cautiously, the uncertainty stoking the flames of my anticipation. I stepped into the dim light, feeling like a dark angel descending upon my quarry. "Didn't expect to see me again, did you?" A thin smile spread across my face, but it didn't reach my eyes. "I'm here to remind you just how much impact a single person can have." "You?" he stammered, trying to regain some semblance of authority. "You're not supposed to be on this floor," I chuckled, stepping closer into the light. I'm here to remind..." "What are you going to do? Kick me out again? You might want to make sure you get your story straight next time." With trembling hands, he fumbled for his phone, dialing security, but I was faster. My hand shot out, grabbing the device and slapping it to the ground where it shattered like glass under the clang of betrayal. "You're here because of your choices, your petty retribution." And now I leaned in close, whispering with the venom of long-stifled rage, "I'll show you what real chaos looks like." He tried to stagger back, wide-eyed, summoning the authority of his title. "You can't intimidate me. I have the power here." "Ah, power? You think you have power? Look around you, Dr. Palmer. This whole place is a sinking ship. You're a captain steering it straight toward an iceberg. And when it crashes, you'll be the one left standing alone." I turned and slipped into the dark hallway, escaping before he could respond, before he could truly understand what I had begun. The thrill of the hunt washed over me, a wave of righteous satisfaction as I envisioned the chaos erupting in the coming weeks. With Michael under scrutiny, caught in the crossfire of doubt and decision-making, I would watch as frustration fueled the fire within the lab. Discontent would breed misery, and it would trickle down through the ranks just as it had for me. The unraveling continued systematically. An unexpected email hit every staff member's inbox. It claimed that access privileges had been revoked for certain users on the network due to suspicious activity, leading to rampant paranoia throughout the computer science faculty. Snivel lips now in a position where prominent power meant nothing was under suspicion for what had started as playful mockery. Each whisper carried my name silently as the tension built like an approaching storm. As they grappled with this newfound chaos, I isolated myself in the periphery, a shadow operating quietly, and while they battled with the panic that had consumed their every move, I set my sights on one final confrontation, one that would catalyze my complete transformation from victim to victor. The day of reckoning arrived with an almost cinematic flair. I secured an invitation to their yearly faculty meeting under the guise of a guest. As Snivel Lips and Dr. Palmer sat at the front, their faces illuminated by the projector displaying recent trends figures I had manipulated, numbers they had come to rely on, I prepared to unveil the final act. As I sat at the back of the room, a tension stirred in my gut. The moment came when they began to share their current progression metrics, their arrogance on display as they reaffirmed their positions. I stood, moving into the light, my voice clear and strong. "I have an announcement to make." Surprised faces turned toward me. "Perhaps you should reevaluate what you think is control." Michael's face paled, while Dr. Palmer's instinct to dismiss me only fanned the flames of my reputation. "You don't belong here." "Ah, but I do," I grinned, glancing around at the now stifled crowd. "Allow me to demonstrate your failures." Each slide projected on the screen switched instantly to a sampling of my earlier doubts and fears, now transformed into ferocious accusations of negligence that would haunt their department. The accusations were sharp and vindictive, each word an arrow launched with precision. "Did you think that your malice would go unnoticed? Gasps erupted as I turned the onlookers, one hand grasping the projector remote. "I'm here to shine a light on your disgraceful treatment." Each slide reinforced my newfound authority, their betrayal now reversed. The tables had turned. With one fluent click, I presented a comprehensive overview of my own research documentation of the faults in their systems. Their complacency now an embarrassment showcased for the university. The very betrayal they had showcased in my life now, their downfall. "Enjoy the fallout of your creation," I would murmur under my breath, ensuring every eye still upon me as the last slide illuminated the damning phrase, "The computer department is a disgrace." I stepped back into the darkness, relishing in the stunned silence that enveloped them. The fallout cascaded around me, their lives dashed as I left the room, the shadows consuming my presence completely as joy coursed through my veins, my face a mask of triumphant darkness, with only the chilling afterthought of impending humiliation left behind to fester. In the end, justice had been served brutally but completely. The sting of betrayal turned into the cathartic acceptance of the consequences. It wasn't just their failures anymore. It was a tapestry woven with my own revenge, a resounding echo of satisfaction. And before the fog of bitterness could cloud my judgment, I took a sanity-breaking breath. I walked away, knowing none would ever forget my name. They would see me as the one who turned their own game against them, using their flawed perception of authority against them. In that moment, I felt untouchable. And as the story of their disgrace echoed through the halls, that fleeting moment ended with my cruel farewell still ringing soundly. People underestimated me when I said you're all a disgrace. Now watch how it all comes crashing down. The statement hung on the air like poison, suffocating the existence they had built. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like.